Bill 202, Alberta Affordable Housing Review Committee Act. Ms. Luff.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for allowing me to rise and speak about the Alberta Affordable Housing Committee Review Act. I was very happy to hear that there's been lots of debate about affordable housing in the House today and in the past weeks, and I'm very excited to get the opportunity to talk about it again. I just want to thank the members of my constituency of Calgary East, whom I'm proud to represent here today. The idea for this bill arose from conversations that I've had with constituents on their doorsteps and in my constituency office. These people are our seniors, single parents, new Canadians, and women escaping violence. I've spoken with municipal officials and local organizations like Horizon Housing, Women Together Ending Poverty, Momentum, Sunrise Community Link, the Calgary Housing Corporation, the Wood Buffalo Housing Corporation, and the Alberta chapter of the Canadian Home Builders Association. And I just want to take a second to acknowledge Jim Rive and Wendy J. Bush, who are here in the House this afternoon to watch debate on this bill. So all of these organizations are aware of the problem. We have too many people having a hard time finding and keeping a home here in Alberta. There's much expertise available in Alberta to draw from and much work being done. The aim of this bill is to hear from many Albertans and to take a big picture look at this crucial issue. I want to allow a committee to conduct a comprehensive review of affordable housing issues in this province. I want a committee to make recommendations that would make Alberta a province committed to housing security, a province where every Albertan has a safe, secure place to call home. And these are recommendations that I hope will be realized. Mr. Speaker, affordable housing is a priority for Albertans, and therefore it is a priority for our government. In order for housing to be considered affordable, it needs to cost less than 30% of a household's before-tax income. Households exceeding 30% are said to be in core housing need. Thousands of Albertans are in core housing need at this time. The latest census data from 2011 found that over 23% of renters in the province and approximately 10.7% of all households in the province are in this core housing need. In 2015, the Edmonton Social Planning Council reported that the number of households in core housing need was trending upwards in the Edmonton area. I'd like everybody to take a moment and just imagine someone who is in this situation, someone who makes $15 an hour, which is currently above minimum wage. 30% of that person's monthly income is $800 before taxes. And I don't know if you've tried to find somewhere to live in Calgary or Edmonton or really anywhere in the province for $800 a month, including utilities lately. I think you'll find it's extremely difficult. I have a friend and former constituent who was able to come to Calgary and to leave her naturally devastated country of Nepal after the earthquake. She came here to try and make a better life for herself and for her young son. However, once she was here, her life took a turn into further, more difficult circumstances. Her husband became physically violent. She was fortunately able to flee with her young son, and she was helped by a women's shelter. However, at a point, you have to leave a women's shelter, as we've discussed previously in the House. This friend of mine had to find affordable housing, and she had to find daycare for her son. Her son had to move schools. This woman makes $12 an hour working full-time at a fast food restaurant. She looked for a suitable apartment for half a year, and she was finally able to secure a one-bedroom basement suite. Now, this suite is not legal. It doesn't have a separate entrance. It doesn't have separate laundry. And it's located, some days an hour away from her job via transit. Now, it does include free Wi-Fi, but I still think she's not getting a very good deal. Housing is it's a basic human right. It's something that we learn about in school very early on. I recall from 4th grade, Le Quartier Mandé de Mademoiselle La Bonté, that we learned about human needs for food and shelter and water, and we made posters about those things. Humans' need for shelter is something that we learn very early on in school. And in fact, as I learned later on in school, there are many fundamental human rights. Adequate housing is a fundamental human right enshrined under Article 25 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Safe, adequate housing is essential to social well-being. Mr. Speaker, emergency shelters are not adequate housing, and cars are not adequate housing. It's not acceptable for someone to be asked for 6 months of rent up front. It's not acceptable for someone's rent to go up hundreds to thousands of dollars with only 3 months warning. What are we saying as a society when mortgages on most three-bedroom houses cost less than the monthly cost of renting a two-bedroom apartment? Housing in Alberta is at a crisis point. My office deals with people who want to get into Calgary housing every day. I've spoken with a father of a new Canadian family who has cancer, who wants to make sure that his wife and children are cared for. I've spoken to seniors on fixed income. I've spoken to, a single mom whose roommate moved out and she couldn't afford the rent anymore. These are all people who need social housing and who are precariously housed. They're at risk of becoming homeless. And I have to tell them the wait list is huge. There's over 3,000 people on the wait list to get into Calgary housing, and more than 15,000 people on the wait list for social housing across Alberta. And wait times vary depending on the housing program or the type of housing requested. I just want to tell you about another constituent who's in this situation, who's been on the wait list for Calgary housing for over a year. So he's from Afghanistan, he's lived here in Canada for 3 years, and he works the night shift at Cargill as a side puller. This man lives in a three-bedroom house. He lives in a three-bedroom house with 5 other adults. One of the bedrooms in that house is occupied by a whole family that has a baby. He lives in this situation because despite working full-time and taking English classes during the day, he can't afford his own apartment. His rent has recently also been increased. So there's a steadily increasing demand for affordable housing, but we have limited supply, as has been noted. Alberta is expected to grow by more than 1 million people in the next decade and 2 million people by 2041. This is a problem that urgently needs to be addressed, and it's not something that's going to disappear. Alberta's affordable housing infrastructure is also aging. Many of the buildings are between 30 and 60 years old, and operating costs, including utilities and repairs, are increasing. Very few social housing units have been constructed since 1993, which is when the federal government stopped funding social housing. We're facing difficult times in Alberta right now. Right now in Alberta, more people are facing the possibility of homelessness. I would submit that hard times are in fact the best times to invest in solutions that will help our most vulnerable immediately and will help all of us in the long run. In difficult times, Albertans have always worked together. Our government will not leave our most vulnerable neighbours behind, and this bill supports that commitment. I'm proud to be part of a government that is committed to making thoughtful decisions about how we move forward with respect to affordable housing. Now, Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to establish a committee that is tasked with developing recommendations to ensure all Albertans have the benefits of safe, appropriate, and affordable housing. The committee will make recommendations to ensure Albertans can enjoy the human right of housing security. There hasn't been a committee on affordable housing since 2007, which was under very different economic circumstances, but housing remains a critical issue whether the economy is booming or contracting, because each situation puts pressure on low-income households' ability to maintain housing. So there are too many Albertans, my constituents and yours, who are working hard to provide good lives for themselves and their children, but have to deal with situations that make this very difficult. I believe everyone here makes a positive difference in the life. I believe everyone here in this room wants to make a positive difference in the life of Albertans. I believe all Albertans, those in low-wage jobs, those with disabilities, seniors who've worked their whole lives in Alberta, should be able to afford their own safe legal home. Mr. Speaker, I'm hopeful that we can do better for people, that every Albertan can have a comfortable place to call home, a place that they don't need to fear will be taken away from them. Now, I do have a whole section on work that's currently being done, but as I am running out of time, I will leave that to further debate. But I do want to acknowledge that there is plenty of work being done by excellent nonprofits and local organizations all over the province to fill the gaps that are due to a lack of planning on behalf of previous provincial and federal governments. So really, people who know me know that I'm a big picture person. I'm a systemic change person. And I know that the social housing solutions of the 70s aren't going to work for us today here in Alberta. We need new ideas. And this is why I wanted to strike a committee instead of choosing to propose specific solutions. So in order to achieve the change that works, whether that change is in a business, whether that change is in a school, whether it's in a community, you have to consult the people who are affected, and you have to use their ideas. For a problem of this magnitude, we need a made-in-Alberta solution. A committee is a democratic process where everyone can be heard and all voices can be considered. To achieve systemic change in how we house people, we need not only include but embrace all stakeholders. We need to honor all points of view in such a dynamic issue, and set upon a course that examines our options in creating the most equitable path forward. The issues I've included in my bill are issues my constituents care about: rent regulation, mobile home park rent, security deposits, and affordable home ownership. These are things that I've said I would work on, but I do want to note that the bill is not limited to those considerations. I wanted to keep it wide open. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.